The College World Series final between Oklahoma and Ole Miss is set, where two unseeded teams are facing off against each other in this finals, and probably no one really saw this coming at the start of the postseason. Both these teams were hot, sure, don't get me wrong, but it's hard to predict two unseeded teams to make it this far, especially when there were so many top dogs that had a very good chance, at least from the outside looking in, that they could make a very good run, like Tennessee, Stanford, all the really high seeded teams all looked pretty dominant for most of the year. So for them to struggle and these unseeded teams to come through was something that a lot of people didn't see coming.
Yeah, I mean, just what a week it has been on the Ole Miss side of things. You had a lot of people expecting Arkansas or Stanford to come out of that side, and then on the Oklahoma side, a lot of people expecting either Texas or Notre Dame to come out of there. But we got the two unseeded teams, which we're absolutely loving. And in the process, there just hasn't been a lot of close games. Every year in the College World Series, you're going to get a minimum of 14 games and up to 17 games if we get all those elimination games. And since 2010, every single year there's been at least 8 games decided by 3 or less runs. And through the first 11 games here, we had zero. But these last 2 games between Ole Miss and Arkansas were certainly exciting, both decided between 2 or less runs. So they got us back on the right track. And that's not to say that this entire week hasn't been exciting. It's been awesome. It's been entertaining. But I think all the fans at Omaha and watching around the country certainly would have liked a little closer competition to lead to some late game excitement.
Yeah, definitely. And staying with Ole Miss, they've just been extremely hot for most of the postseason here, only losing one game so far, and that was their third game in the College World Series. So they started out 7-0 before losing that first one, and that's the only one they've done so far. So really, it's been dominated by the pitching for them. They've just been led through the regionals, super regionals. They didn't give up a run against Southern Miss, and they just continued their dominance, only giving up 9 runs over 4 games in the College World Series so far. And with the top of their lineup headlined by Tim Elko, Justin Bench, Jacob Gonzalez, and Kevin Graham, those are 4 guys that can get enough offensive productivity just by themselves to carry a team if the pitching staff is doing what they have been.
Yeah, I mean, like you mentioned with Ole Miss, a lot of that offensive production is going to come out of those top 4 guys. They're just absolute studs at the top of the order. It definitely falls off a little bit after that, and you can kind of see that in these last 2 games against Arkansas. Not a lot of runs scored, but the pitching staff has carried, especially with Dylan DeLuca just going crazy. Goes complete game today, complete game shutout. He's probably not going to be ready until game 3 of this final series if they get it to game 3. Otherwise, you might see him come out of the pen to close a game or clutch up a late game situation. But other than that, after starting 2 games already in the College World Series, probably not going to see him till game 3. And then their other 2 starters are going to be Hunter Elliott and John Gaddis, both solid guys that had good performances already, but not quite on the level that Dylan has been in the College World Series. So we'll see what we get out of that pitching staff. And yeah, like you mentioned, I mean, they're extremely hot, only lost 1 game, and they are the favorite in all the sports books heading into this.
Yeah, and Dylan DeLucia's just been absolutely nasty. His stuff has been off the charts, especially with that fastball. Seems like nobody can really touch it, and once he came out of the pen and it started to start games, it just has been going down, like rolling downhill. The ball has been rolling and just keeps on carrying from there, and he's just been getting better and better with each start, it seems like. But switching to Oklahoma now, they're extremely young and look to maybe be 1 year away. They were kind of a middle of the pack team in the Big 12 there for a while, but somewhat got some separation in the end, was charging to the top of the conference there, almost made it to the very top and won the regular season title. Unfortunately, fell just short of that, but was able to keep the ball rolling there into the conference tournament, win that thing. And their pitching was iffy through most of the year, but really became pretty solid at the end and settled in just very nice, especially with Cade Horton just leading the line there. He was starting later in the weekend, but you just got to keep pushing that guy up if he's continuing to have these top performances like he has when the lights are at the brightest.
Yeah, Cade Horton was absolutely electric in his first start in the College World Series here. The stuff was just incredible. The velo on the fastball, his slider was just devastating. I mean, he looked like a absolute ace and looked like he just completely boosted his draft stock as well. Not sure if he's going to be able to go in this first game. Probably needs a little more rest since he didn't pitch in the first game for him. So you're probably going to see Jake Bennett from them in game one. And that's still a good matchup considering he's going against Hunter Elliott for Ole Miss. So you'll probably see Horton in that game too. And then if needed in the game three, you'll see David Sandlin, who had a lights out performance in that final game against Texas A&M. Yeah, that was incredible stuff from him. If anyone has heard the story, his sister passed away just a few weeks ago. So for him to be able to go out there and put on that performance, even going through that, was just incredible stuff from him and super impressive to be able to battle through that, especially in the postseason when your team needs you most.
Yeah, definitely something to root for there. And just leading into the offenses a bit, led by Peyton Graham and Tanner Treadaway for Oklahoma. Like we said, very young besides that, but this is a team that was kind of out of it for a while, but really got going late, like we mentioned. And the offenses here between Oklahoma and Ole Miss are very different in how they're constructed, with Oklahoma having more than 100 more stolen bases than Ole Miss, and Ole Miss having 30 more home runs than Oklahoma. So completely different styles of offense that we'll be seeing, but both of these teams can switch it up a bit. I know Oklahoma does have some bats that have some juice in it if the wind is blowing out in Omaha, but we'll have to see there.
Yeah, like you mentioned, Oklahoma is extremely aggressive on the base paths, and sometimes you'll see them run into some mistakes, but they're one of those teams that would rather be on the aggressive end making those mistakes rather than sitting back on their heels and making mistakes that way. So you got to love the aggressiveness out of them. And one of the main guys you'll see that from is Kendall Pettis, hiding down in the 9-hole in that lineup, the speedy left fielder. Plays really well in the outfield, and he's a hidden gem down in the 9-hole. I don't think Ole Miss will be overlooking him, but he's a unique asset to Oklahoma to be able to turn over that lineup and get things rolling for those top guys again.
Yeah, and from that point, I think you kind of have to lean in the direction of Oklahoma winning the College World Series just because they've played fewer games recently. They have their arms rested, but you definitely cannot look past the discrepancy in the size of the fan base that will be in Omaha, with Ole Miss by far ahead of Oklahoma, just commanding that margin. So that can definitely neutralize any advantage that Oklahoma thinks they have or might have in their pitching staff.
Yeah, I'm also going to lean in the direction of Oklahoma here as well. I think I'll actually go as far to say I think they win it in 2 games, just based off the fact that Dylan DeLucia is not going to be ready for another start. Ole Miss not winning that first final game against Arkansas really hurt them in that way for the pitching staff having to use more arms. And so, yeah, I'm going to go with Oklahoma in 2 here.
Luckily, the bullpen is pretty rested because of that complete game, but definitely a bit frustrating to have to use your best arm like that. But definitely, hopefully, a great series. Hopefully, it goes 3 games. That's what I want to see. Want to see them battle and have very close games like we kind of haven't been seeing the entire College World Series. Hopefully, we get that here in the finals. But besides that, thank you for watching, and subscribe for more college baseball content.
I'll see you on Saturday in Omaha, college baseball fans.